my name's Rachel, and today we are going to talk about a book that is so horrible, I am shocked it has any readership. Yes, I'm not joking. I am serious. I don't know why anyone looks at this book with any sort of fondness. At least with Fourth Wing, I can understand why people like it. I don't understand it here. Now, if you love GOTHIKANA by Runix, the dark academia gothic thing I'm happy for you. I just don't understand. No shade, I just don't get it. Again, this is pitched as a gothic dark academia. It's not. It's just a badly written dark romance where the setting is inspired by listening to Evanescence on repeat. What kind of dark romance? Student-teacher. There's also lots of schizophrenia discussion that feels troubling to say the least, and plot holes galore. That's what this book is. I wouldn't call it dark academia because that's just sort of there to be slapped on. You could replace it with something else. It's not really relevant to the story in my opinion. The point of it is the relationship between a student and her teacher. And all the work that went into this was not really to create a story that makes sense, a story that is atmospheric. It's just there to make a student and her teacher fraternize. This was one of the least enjoyable reading experiences. That's underselling it. This was so painful to read. The writing on a prose level is bad. It doesn't do what it sets out to execute. The scenes with the, what the heck was that? I have read 2 chapters of this dark academia. It's already way better. This? What is this? That is a question that I asked repeatedly to my friend who also read this book. You may remember that Lou read this book and has a video on it. I asked her to sum up the reading experience of GOTHIKANA by Runix in one word, but make that word Portuguese. She says marmota game, which comes from the word marmota, which means something tacky, ill-prepared, weird as fuck. It's not just Lou helping me learn Brazilian Portuguese so that I can talk about this book in 2 languages. I've personally been learning Portuguese using Babbel. Babbel is one of the top language learning apps in the world, and it has lessons using real-life conversations that are scientifically proven to help you start learning a new language in 3 weeks. Babbel's lessons are created by over 650 real language experts so that you learn practical, real-world conversations, and it's been particularly helpful in helping me acquire an understanding of things that can be hard to learn in new languages, such as sentence structure and verbs. The amount of verbs in Portuguese, oh my goodness. They also have a great review section so that you can go back over everything that you've learned in a variety of ways, which really helps me retain better what I've learned. The review section has speaking, listening, writing, and flashcards. I'm on course 4, which is learning about like stuff around the city, specifically Rio, which is going to be really helpful when I visit, hopefully in the summer of this year. In the listening portion, it's going to speak to me, and then I have to recall what they are saying.
20. A que horas?
A que horas is at what time? And then I have to pick the correct one.
O melão está doce.
Melão doce, is the melon sweet. At what time is a que horas?
A que horas?
20.
20.
Got it. Babbel teaches you language in a practical way, so it prepares you to have conversations about everything from business to personal stuff, like talking to your friends about terrible books. What books do you want to complain about in 2 languages? What language are you hoping to learn? Whether it's Portuguese or Turkish or French or Italian, you can get 60% off your subscription by clicking the link below or using the QR code on the screen to get started today. And thank you so much to Babbel for sponsoring today's video. I regret to inform you that this book has a playlist, and exactly what you think is on that playlist is on that playlist.
It's like a dark paradise, no one compares to you. Now I will tell you what I've done for you.
Yes, Evanescence is on it. Who's shocked? Not me. You know what is shocking? That Runix would do this to my man Hosier. That's just criminal. Don't bring our boy into this and besmirch his good name. Let me give you the synopsis of this terrible book. I'm really mad about this book. Like, this was worse than I was anticipating, and I was left very angry about it. Like, I read this at the same time that I read Bride by Ali Hazelwood, and the reason why Bride got a 2.5 from me is in part because GOTHIKANA was so terrible in comparison. The eternal romance of of Beauty and the Beast meets the gothic suspense of Dracula in this erotic dark academia story of epic love from best-selling author Runix. Everything that was just said to me feels like a lie. Okay. An unusual girl, an enigmatic man, an ancient castle. What could go wrong? Everything possible goes wrong. Not in the way that the author intended it. An outcast her entire life, Corvina Clem. Yes, that is the main character's name. Corvina Clem is left adrift after losing her mother. Now, that sounds like her mom died. That's not what happened. When she receives an admission letter from the mysterious University of Varenmore. It's Evermore with the letters switched around. This is so stupid. She accepts it as a sign from the universe. It's not. It's a manipulation tactic from the love interest. We'll get there. The last thing she expects though is an old secluded castle on the top of a mountain riddled with secrets, deceit, and death. An enigma his entire life. Vod Deverell. Vod, like Vlad, but without the L. Vod, V-A-D, Deverell. Likes being a closed book but knowing exactly everything that happens in the university. A part-time professor working on his thesis, Vod has been around long enough to know the dangers the castle possesses, and he knows the moment his path crosses with Corvina, she's dangerous to everything that he is. She's literally not. That's not even true. The synopsis is just lying to you. She's not dangerous to him at all. It's the opposite. They shouldn't have caught each other's eye. They didn't catch each other's eye. He manipulated her into being enrolled at this school. Okay. They cannot be, but a chill-inducing century-old mystery forces them to collide. He forced them to collide, actually. People have disappeared every 5 years over the past century. Corvina is getting clues to unraveling it all, and Vod needs to keep an eye on her. Actually, he needs to have his eyes plucked out of his head. And so begins a tale of the mysterious, the morbid, the macabre, and a deep love that blossoms in the unlikeliest of places. Okay, don't let the synopsis fool you. Obviously, I pointed out that it's just lying, but I just want to let you know that this book has no plot, okay? It just does a bunch of stuff, and not a single thing is done well. Normally, I try to point out, like, I at least have to give credit where credit is due. There's no credit due here. It's all bad. It does a bunch of stuff and all of it is maybe loosely connected, except there's a bunch of plot holes, and the author decided to point out that these are plot holes and just basically say, I'm not gonna do anything about it. Bye! And I regret to inform you that I read the traditionally published version of this, which means that a big publisher got their hands on this, which means multiple people read over it and decided to give it the all clear. Good to go. How? It was previously self-published before it got a lot of attention, particularly on Book Talk, and then Tor, an imprint of Macmillan, picked it up and published it traditionally. And the publisher didn't think to clean up basic sentences, let alone fill the enormous plot holes that I fell into, size of a fucking crater. And they didn't take out the frankly concerning depiction of schizophrenia. But what can I expect from Tor when they used AI images in order to create this new cover? Stolen art slapped on a book that story is held together with spit, a prayer, and a dry glue stick. This is legitimately terrible, and I have 11 pages of notes to explain why, so let's do this. Let me go ahead and give you the trigger warnings for this. Grooming. Intentional, not like in a way that shows like grooming bad. No, grooming romanticized, okay? Hearing voices in your head, suicide, forced institutionalization. I think that covers it. We have two prologues. Prologue 1 is Vod in the past, our love interest.
I just want to explain that I had to create my own people to show you, and this was the best that I could do for Vod Deverell. And I'm just warning you that the best I could do for Corvina Clem was to just put some purple eyes on Jenna Ortega, because assumedly this is sort of like trying to channel Wednesday Addams. I just think I need to apologize to both Jamie Dornan and Jenna Ortega. That's all.
He is a little boy in a home for boys. He's an orphan. And Zelda, the old caretaker at this orphanage, who knows things before they happen and is blind, says to him, "To a castle where none go, you will go, boy. You will find purple eyes." And Ajax, another boy, roared a laugh, it says.
Hey, is Ajax your actual name? Because it sounds suspiciously made up. What is it really, Kevin?
Nobody has purple eyes. And at this point, I typed into my notes, I bet our main character does. You want to guess if I'm right or not? Yeah. And Zelda says, "It's a matter of many deaths." So that's great. Prologue 2, Corvina Clem. First line, black. It was the absence of color, the abyss of unknown. She loved black. And it was at that moment that I said, I bet I can guess what's on the official playlist for this book.
No colors in
In the town where Corvina and her mother, Mrs. Clem, who I don't believe was given a name, both with punk rock black hair and purple eyes, are not well liked. They say her mom's a witch, and I hope she is, because maybe then this book will be interesting, I said to myself. Boy, was I wrong. Corvina befriends crows because her mom takes her to a clearing regularly to feed the crows. Her mom doesn't talk much, but hears voices, including ones that tell her to homeschool Corvina, or Corvina will be taken away from her. But don't worry, she still lets her go to the library. It says, if her mother was a freak, then maybe so was she. Sometimes she heard the voices too. Chapter 1. Corvina gets a letter accepting her into the University of Varenmore, which is weird because she's a 21-year-old girl who is homeschooled. She can't find anything about Varenmore University on the internet, so she just goes. She took 2 trains to get there. She's not really leaving anything behind. Everybody hates her for being too weird.
I'm weird. I'm a weirdo. I don't fit in.
Only the librarian in town was nice to her, which honestly is the most accurate thing in this book because librarians are some of the only nice people when you're a kid. She was just sitting around doing readings because she does tarot, and she needs a clean slate because her mom is gone, which is left ambiguous. But her mom is not dead. Her taxi driver is driving her to Varenmore from the town near Varenmore, and she's like, is this place haunted? And he's like, something's not right with it. That bodes well. No, he's not talking about the name being ridiculous. He's talking about the goings on at the castle. We get told that she has violet eyes just like her mama did and a fishtail braid, and the fishtail braid comes up again and again and again. You know what doesn't come up? Plot. The taxi driver says that a lot of weird stuff happens at the castle. People go mad. People go missing. So Wednesday Addams here comes upon Varenmore University Academy, whatever the fuck it's called. She's like, yay, maybe I'll make a friend finally. I've never had a friend in my life and I'm 21 years old. Maybe I'll even meet a boy. Now at 21, calling a potential love interest a boy is a very odd choice of words, but it's actually there to make a point because she doesn't find a boy, she finds a grown-ass 28-year-old man. And it's differentiating the people closer to her age that she could have been with, but they're just not right for her. She needs somebody wiser, experienced, a groomer. I hate the love interest so much. The school is extremely weird, and I don't mean that because it's like touted as a dark academia book and it's got an eerie setting. I mean it's weird in that the students can't even make phone calls. Cell phones don't work up there, and the students, like, I guess just don't even try. They can't even make phone calls without permission. These are legal adults. Corvina is old enough to drink, but this non-religious college dictates whether or not she can make a phone call to her doctor. Sure. What reason is given for this? None. The college just doesn't let you make phone calls or even leave because her roommate that we're about to meet is a runaway. She ran away and then came back. Why is it called running away? You can't just leave? I can't just leave college if I don't want to go there? Now, don't get it twisted. You will barely even see the faculty, let alone see them enforcing these rules or explaining why these rules exist. The only faculty that you're going to see is one member, and it's the love interest. You see a couple others barely. I don't even remember their names, let alone their jobs. And this faculty member that we're going to see will repeatedly break the one rule this place that has that actually makes sense. No teacher-student relationships. Okay. She immediately runs into a girl named Jade. They like immediately hit it off because Jade is like the nicest person that she has ever met. Jade explains that she ran away, but she's back now. They run into a boy and he's like, hope you don't die like Jade's last roommate. And Jade's like, yeah, my former roommate Alyssa jumped off the top of the school, and I think it has something to do with the fact that she was dating a professor. Do you want to guess what professor it is? Then we hear that Corvina and underwear don't mix. Why am I interrupting with this? Because the book did! Corvina hates bras. Why is this important? It's not, but for some reason, the book decided to tell me, and if I have to live with that knowledge, so do you now. Jade asks for a hug, and Corvina is like, oh sure, I don't really get touched by other people. Other people don't really like me. And it says, she smells sweet like happiness, but something a little dark. Wow, this foreshadowing is so heavy-handed. It's like being in Roadrunner and having a fucking anvil dropped on you. They talk about boys, and we are interrupted again because this is just like dumping a bunch of info and trying to find a way to make it seamless, and it's not working. Talking about boys, we are interrupted with learning that Corvina loves long skirts, which makes her weird.
I'm weird. I'm a weirdo.
And she explains she does tarot. Jade is super excited. She's messing with her tarot cards, and on her bed is the death card, which she doesn't remember pulling out of the deck. By the way, trigger warning for murder. Multiple murders. Also, trigger warning for racism. In the night, Jade's asleep. Corvina hears music, so she grabs a candelabra, which is about as close to gothic setting as this book gets, and goes to find the melody. And it says, a boy, no, a man. There it is, sitting in all black in front of the piano. She recognizes that it's the teacher that Jade told her about, that Jade's roommate may or may not have been messing with, and she knows that it's him because of a white streak in his hair, because of course he does. So she gets freaked out and scurries away, and assumedly this guy is the teacher, but also the guy from the prologue, Vod. Chapter 3, we start our chapter with a long and unnecessary reiteration of what Corvina looks like and a description of what she's wearing. In this way, the book, which yes, it does this often again and again and again, in this way it feels very much like something you'd read on AO3. She wears black and brown. She has a fishtail braid. She has a black choker. Don't forget her violet eyes. And also, did we mention that she wears long skirts?
I don't fit in.
Her roommate Jade tells her, oh, it's the year of the black ball. Of course it is. Jade says every black ball, someone goes missing. 20 people over 100 years. They go to class, and who's the teacher? Professor Hot Guy with the hair streak. Yay! He's carrying a diary, because of course he is, and it says she knew what he'd see when he looked at her. Black ribbon choker, fishtail braid, odd violet eyes. Oh my god, stop! We get it! Stop now. I'm Vod Deverell, he says. Give me a fucking break. And he's an English professor, because of course he is. Who wants to bet how quickly we'll get to him saying an Edgar Allan Poe reference? Who wants to bet? Anyone want to place a bet? He's not just a teacher, he's a doctorate student. His thesis is on the correlation and effect of music on literature throughout the ages. To be honest, I'd rather read that thesis than this book, but alas, here we are. By the way, if you think that this comes up again in a way that is important, you're wrong. Within 30 seconds, the narration is telling us that this man is the first time Corvina Clem has experienced lust. So glad I had that spelled out to me, an adult reader who could have just picked up on context clues. Thank you. They go around the class saying everybody's name, and a kid says that Corvina Clem is a cool ass name and asks, does it mean anything? And the teacher says it means little crow, and Corvina corrects him, it's little raven. Corvina and Clem, your parents liked Poe? What did I say 2 fucking seconds ago? How long until a Poe reference? Yeah, exactly. My mother liked Poe. Of course she did. I fucking told you there'd be a Poe reference. And listen, your bitch likes Poe too. Look at this insanely old copy I have of Poe. This was published, this is from 1927. This book is 100 years old, and the texture of it makes me freak out a little bit. I have to put it down. It feels like cornstarch, and I don't like cornstarch. I'm sorry you had to see that. Oh god. Ugh. Oh, it gets stuck on my hands. That is a 100-year-old copy of the works of Edgar Allan Poe that was given to me from my grandma. I get it. I like Poe too, but we don't need to be weird and edgy about it. The rest of the class passed in a blur, it says, because of course we don't hear about what they're actually learning. Jade is worried about the obvious sexual tension between Vod and Corvina. Jade's like, he goes into the creepy woods, because God forbid a man have hobbies that isn't grooming a 21-year-old. And she mentions the last girl who went missing at the black ball was with him. This girl's name was Zoe. Corvina hears a man's voice in her head. This is something that happens to her, and she likes to think of it as her father, like a fatherly figure, but then that sort of just like drops off and it's no longer a fatherly figure. And in fact, who the voice is just never gets explained. It's just a giant fucking plot hole. We are told that her father actually died by suicide, and suddenly, squirrel. Then the narrative just shifts away from that to Corvina saw a crow, so she follows it. I thought that we were going to do something cool with the crows, and that there was a murder mystery, and that the crows were going to help Corvina solve the murder mystery. That's not what happened. The crows are just there to be there, to make it seem like an eerie setting. Just like the tarot is there to just sort of be there. After running into the woods, who comes upon her but the silver-eyed devil? The amount of times his eyes and her eyes were described in this book, silver eyes meets purple, silver and purple clash. Ridiculous. Stop it. So her silver-eyed devil of a teacher shows up and it says, she blushes at the singular masculine attention from the masculine male. This is what passes to get published these days? Are you fucking serious? Okay. He's like, it's not safe out there. I could have been anyone. I could have done anything to you and then left you here. Jail, jail, jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Straight to jail. But Corvina's not scared because she recognizes that the crow knows him. And that makes this creepy ass man trustworthy because God knows birds just never have bad taste in humans.
And I was my wit's end.
But not only does he have a bird's seal of approval, this weirdo smells good, like coming home and heartache and nostalgia. Yes, those are certainly smells. He's smoking a cigarette and she's lusting after him. Do you think that we were gonna get a plot in this scene at any point? Be serious. She's like, are any of the rumors about you true? And instead of just answering the question, he says, you're very unusual, almost enough to interest me, and that isn't a good thing. Stay out of the woods, little crow. Your feathery friends can't help you if you're dead. So is that a yes? Or anyways, he leaves and then she hears a feminine voice whisper, help me. Which, you know, certainly bodes well. I still don't know who this voice is. Came up a bunch of times. I still don't know who it is, to be honest with you. Back at school, another student, a young woman who is named Roy Kingston, calls her Freaky Eyes. Roy is the mean girl of the book who shows up all of maybe 4 times and is the only, as far as I could tell, black character in the book. And it says that Jade, the roommate, told her Roy had come from a really shitty foster home where she'd been sexually assaulted. It had hardened her and made her a bitch to anyone who didn't fit in with her, and Corvina was on that list. Red flag, Runix. Red fucking flag. Roy, who is described as having an ample bosom, gets on her case for being in the woods with the teacher, Mr. Deverell. She's like, student-teacher relationships are against the rules, and Corvina wonders why Roy cares. I'm wondering why I should care about any of this. Back in her room, she finds a ring with a jade stone underneath her bed. This does not get explained. Assumedly it has to do with Jade not being who she says she is, but it's completely, like, it doesn't get brought up again. It's really stupid. We immediately shift away from this and never bring it up again. I assumed it would be important later. It wasn't. Then we're in a psychology class with Professor Kari, who is told to be mean to students but also leering at 18-year-old girls quite often. Somehow this guy is gross for doing that, but Professor Deverell isn't, despite him also wanting to fuck a student. Okay. Speaking of him, in his class, she's thinking about how she thinks of him while touching herself. He asks her to stay after class. She's walking towards him, describing what he looks like and fantasizing some more about him sexually, only for him to interrupt her thoughts by saying, that's not a way you look at your teacher, little crow. You look at me like you're inviting me to come play. I would not even invite this man to come play Monopoly. Again, do not pass go. Straight to jail. Then he tells her she's bewitching and says, steer clear of me, little crow. You might be... Oh god, this is so fucking stupid! Steer clear of me, little crow. You might be a luring siren, but I'm no ordinary sailor. I'm a mad pirate, and if I land on your shores, I will plunder and take away everything worth having. Be very careful giving me those eyes. I'm a mad pirate, and if I land on your shores, I will plunder. I feel like I just referenced the bad Pirates of the Caribbean parody porn, and I feel like that line was inspired by that, but then Runix didn't stop to think, maybe that sounds like a fucking joke. And then of course we get a whole paragraph about how aroused he makes her with his weird ass words. We are 23 fucking % into this book now, and there's no plot. There's only birds and horniness and weird pirate puns in a sexual way. In talking with other students about the Black Ball, which apparently is a masquerade, the other students tell her that there's a story of a group of students that went to the university 100 years ago. A few years after it was founded, this group of students would go down to the local village and take someone into the woods for fun. They did terrible things to this person before sacrificing them, and the story is that they had like a sacrificial orgy or something. The university found out, and then another group of students lynched the students who were doing this. And the students are said to haunt these lands and still take a sacrifice on the night they were killed, the night of the Black Ball. Corvina yearns for the woods because of course she does. She finds 15 unmarked graves in the woods and a piano. And naturally, this looks bad for hot emo teacher because she's already seen him playing a piano. Now there's another piano piano in the woods next to 15 unmarked graves. She goes to the library and some child is in the library. She sees him through the stacks of books and he says, "The Slayers, they're coming." Then the kid is gone. And by the way, we don't ever find out who that was. He never comes back, and Runix doesn't explain this. And also, Runix brought up that they never found out who that was and just decided to not answer that question in the end. What was the fucking point? There wasn't one. Right after this child who just disappears, fuck it, and Professor Inappropriate is there and he's like holding on to her, and she asks him about Alyssa, Jade's former roommate who died by suicide, and she's like, "Did you also corner Alyssa in the library?" He's like, "Why would I do that? I was never with Alyssa in the library." Okay, so you were with Alyssa somewhere else, clearly. He's like, "I need to stay away from you. I don't know what sorcery this is. It's hormones." That's it. He's like, "You have to stop me." Stop yourself. He puts his hand up her skirt, makes contact, and is like, "You're not wearing any underwear." And she says, "I don't like wearing underwear." And it says, "You've ruined me with that knowledge." Oh, hey, same. I finally have something in common with the love interest. He takes out his fingers, puts them in her mouth, and I'm sorry, but all I can think is, I know damn well this man has not washed his hands. But he then, at the taste, says, "Ambrosia." No. Then he calls her a witch, they hear a noise, and he's like, "This can't happen again," and he scurries away, like the little cockroach he is. I would love for that to be the end of that. Unfortunately, it's not. It gets so much worse. Talking to the students again, they mention that the students who used to kill people out in the woods and have an orgy were called the Slayers, and she's like, "Oh my god, that's what that mysterious little boy in the library talked about before randomly disappearing." Apparently the students who lynched the Slayers also disappeared themselves, so just a whole bunch of students up and disappeared. No word on whether or not their families were looking for them, because we don't need to pay attention to pesky details like that. They find a shack in the woods, her and her like students, like fellow students. There's one named like Tristan, Jade, and somebody else. I don't know. They all just sort of blend together. Who cares, right? They're not important. The important thing is the sex scenes that are coming. They see the shack in the woods, they see someone moving inside, and they run away in terror. Instead of reporting it, which, you know, would make sense, we get a POV from some unidentified and ambiguous they that never comes up again. And it says, "The girl should not have come to Varenmore. She sees too much. It was time for a diversion." We never get this POV again. What was the point and purpose? Nada. She has a vision of her mom, and tarot cards are involved in this vision, and her mom says there's a storm coming and the only place that's safe is the eye of the storm, and he is the eye of the storm. And she says that the he is the devil that's in your heart, which is obviously Vod Deverell, the nasty fucking teacher. And once you taste the forbidden fruit, you belong to the devil. So assumedly the forbidden fruit in this scenario is her own wetness that he put in her mouth. Got it. Or maybe I'm being too literal about it. And who knows, maybe there'll actually be a plot at some point. Wouldn't that be great? She tells him, "Oh, you're not conventionally handsome," after she wakes up, you know, and just ignores the fact that she keeps having visions. And this is obviously some supernatural shit. She's just gonna ignore that. She's like, "You're not conventionally handsome. I'd say that Jack is conventionally handsome." And he's like, "Why did you hold hands with him coming out of the woods when, you know, they were running away from the shack in the woods?" And he says, "Whatever this is, it cannot happen. I'm dangerous. Girls who tangle with me dance with death.
I don't fit in.
I want to fuck you in front of that boy you held hands with." That took a turn. He's like, "This is madness." And if she, you know, was supposed to respond with something normal, she doesn't. She says, "If this is madness, then drown me in it." And then they start making out, and I died inside. The molecules in her body recognize the molecules in his, it said. Great. He pulls back. She's embarrassed. They don't talk for a couple weeks. I have no clue what the fucking point of the book is at this point. There is no plot. And you know what? There's not gonna be. Vod gives her a ride to town because she needs to send mail to her mom, and he tells her that his name Vod means untamed, which then comes up again and again and again because he's so untamed around her. They tell each other their backstories, and she admits that her mom is in a psychiatric institute. Later, they're alone, and he says he doesn't regret kissing her, and now he wants to fool around. The word he uses, though, is possess. He wants to possess her, you know, like a demon. And he brings up being jealous of her classmates roommates, you know, the kids who are actually her age, again, and says, I'm gonna make you come like a firecracker around my cock. I hate it here. This is fucking ridiculous. And I also want to remind you that at this point, we are now 40% into this book, and we're getting the first of many sex scenes, and yet we haven't gotten into the first of any plot. He says, at finding out she is a virgin, you chose the wrong guy for your first time, little crow, but it's too late now. I'm going to fuck you so raw you'll never get me out. This pussy is mine. Jail, jail, jail. Jail for Runix. Jail for this nasty 28-year-old man. Jail everybody. Jail, jail, jail. He slaps her on the vagina, and then before he puts his dick in, he says, this is our madness. Okay. And she thinks his dick feels like a battering ram. He keeps saying she's such a good girl, and then she says she has magic eyes and a magic pussy. I have curled into myself and died at this point. Here is a live reaction of me listening to this scene.
It just said he was untamed. You know, just like his name means. Jail!
Yeah. Then it actually got off the rails. Did you think it already was? Nuh-uh. She hears that voice in her head during sex. And the voice's name, by the way, is Mo. Why is it Mo? I don't know. Mo says to her during sex, by the way, do you remember that this is the voice that she used to think was her father's voice in her head? Yeah, and she's hearing that during sex. He's important, Vivi, this one. And she says out loud, Mo? And the Professor McCreepy says, who the fuck is Mo? And she says, no one. Okay. And he just lets it go and hammers, book's words, his cock into her. The words untamed and also punching his dick into her get used over and over in this scene in a way that not only disgusts me, but also makes me wonder what the fuck the editor was doing. Where were you? You okay? You fall asleep? Afterwards, he says, you'll be sore. And just another fucking spicy book where I have to ask again, is the dick really that big? I don't think it is. Chapter 12 is Vaud's POV. Now we're in Vaud's POV. And the first line is, who the fuck is Mo? Sir, I don't care. I don't care who Mo is at this point. I don't care about your feelings on Mo, but okay. Someone important enough to call out during sex. Technically she didn't call out Mo, she said Mo? Question mark. So yeah, he has Varen more to focus on. This is where they ended, but who the fuck was Mo? Don't care. Do not care. Don't care about your feelings on anything. Fall in a ditch. Back in her POV, it says she's wet with his seed as he drops her off to go back to her dorm. Great. 2 weeks later, still no plot. The only haunting going on at Varen Moor at this point is the death of a good story. What do I think the plot is at this point? I truly don't know. I have a bunch of random facts and random characters, and at 45% in, I don't know how they'll connect to an actual plot or why I should care about any of it. And the sex scene is not plot. After ignoring each other for weeks, he yoinks her into the library and aggressively makes out with her, only to stop and say, he fuck you yet? Regarding another student. She at least points out that this is shitty, only for him to say, has anyone else been in that pussy? Kill him! Kill him now. Please kill him. Can we do Dark Academia like Babel and make like half the book covering up a murder? Can we do that? Corvina, kill him! She is just like really annoyed with him, and he brings up Mo and she says, let me go. They leave, and in his class it says she's noticing he's back to being a professor and not untamed. Cool. Her good friend, which I do not recall being able to differentiate between the friends, aka meaningless side characters, her good friend Troy dies by suicide. He walks off of the roof of a tall part of the castle. She sees this happen. This is the same way that Alyssa, Jade's former roommate, died. And Corvina sees a shadow flicker over his body and then hears Troy's voice in her head, and he says, tell my brother, and then he doesn't finish. I guess his spirit moved on. Her roommate Jade is heartbroken. Maybe they were dating? I don't know. It's all half-baked. She goes off again alone with Vaud. Great decision making. And he asks her to tell him what is going on. Vaude finds out information about her and tells her he wants her to like explain stuff while they're fooling around. And she's like, isn't this a weird conversation to explain my backstory further while we're fooling around? And it says, it will keep your mind from hyperventilating. Hey, did you know that minds could ventilate? Me neither. Everybody's so creative. My mother is schizophrenic, she said as he touched her thighs. It felt so bizarre talking about this while he touched her with sexual intent. Congrats, bitch, you're correct. It is bizarre. It's bizarre that this was written. So was my father. He killed himself because the voices told him to. She's worried that she will be diagnosed with schizophrenia as well. He knows that her mom kept her away from people out of fear, homeschooled her, etc. Her mom used to let her go to like the library and the post office in town, and she admits that she started researching what to do with her mom, and she called an institute to come take her mother away. Her mom was angry. Now her mom hardly remembers her due to dementia. She explains that Mo is not another guy, it's a voice in her head. She was tested for schizophrenia. The doctors told her that she doesn't have it. Maybe she'll be diagnosed later in life. She is hearing more voices than just Mo's. The voices have gotten worse since coming to Barrenmore. Again, this is not plot. What it is really not a good way to talk about schizophrenia. By the way, if you are looking for a reader who has schizophrenia and reviews books, cannot recommend highly enough Nathan from Schizophrenic Reads. He mostly reads nonfiction, but his reviews are so very good. I highly recommend Nathan's TikTok or Instagram in case TikTok gets taken away. Okay, so back to them fooling around. He's now got his fingers inside her and his mouth wreaked havoc on her nub. Please kill me. She finishes and it says, his lips are glistening with her orgasm. No thank you. He says, I don't care if the voices are in your head, you're mine now. Okay. So Troy, the student who died by suicide, his brother shows up and he happens to also be an investigator. His name is Ajax, which if you recall is the name of the kid from Prologue 1 who was at the orphanage with Vaude. Ajax gives Corvina a note telling her to come meet him at the lake at 10 p.m. Personally, I'm 30 years old, so I'm like, can we make it 7:30? On the way there, she hears voices. This goes nowhere because again, we're not writing a plot. At the lake, Ajax asks her, do you think that there is something odd with Troy's death, with my brother's death? And she said, well, Jade's former roommate died the same way last year. She asks, do you think it has anything to do with the Slayers legend? And then she mentions Vaude Deverell and he's like, oh, that fucking bastard found you. I met him when we were 7 in a home for lost boys. We're lost boys. There was an old lady in that home who knew things before they happened. She told Vaude to look for purple eyes. I didn't even remember it until I saw your eyes this morning. I saw him here years later after Vaude's grandfather took him out of the foster home and we were both enrolled here. His grandfather died suspiciously. He fell down a very short flight of stairs. And who should interrupt him but the Professor Weirdo himself. Looks like the old lady was right. You found your purple eyes. This isn't plot. It's not plot. Then Ajax says, by the way, Vaude is the heir to Barrenmore. He owns this shit. Then they argue about whose dick is bigger. I'm not joking. And Ajax is like, my ex-girlfriend Zoe disappeared during the black ball, by the way. So glad that this guy showed up to info dump here on us readers. Anyway, Ajax leaves and Corvina says, who even are you to Vaude? You're a stranger. And his answer is to say, would a stranger know exactly how your cum tastes on my tongue?
I'm so tired of being here.
I mean, yeah, that's not like outside the realm of possibility, so I'm gonna still say stranger danger here, my guy. Oh, remember how they're outside because she met Ajax by the lake? Yeah, now her and Vaude fuck against a tree, and as he's thrusting into her, it says, I am your madness. Oh, trust me, this is definitely madness, but it's also the least sexy thing that I can think of. After telling her to walk back to her dorm with his cum inside her, he lets her ask him a few questions. Considerate, great, we love it. He explains that his family has had this land for generations, but after several deaths, his grandfather took the family name off everything and let the board run this place. And she's like, tell me you're not evil. And he says, what if I am? Does that make you loathe me? Keep your pussy dry? Get a grip! Get a grip, get a grip. But she thinks, doesn't make me want him any less. Great. But he confirms he's not evil. He's not the evil haunting this place. He's the evil hunting the evil that's haunting this place. Okay. See, that sounds plot adjacent, so that could go somewhere. Let's do that instead of more bad sex scenes. for the love of God. He explains that his father paid his mother to get rid of him, so he lived at a boys' home. At 13, his dad's dad, his grandfather, came to get him because he needed an heir and his dad had died. His grandpa told him all about Varanmore, trained him to become heir, taught him to play piano. This all appealed to him because he had nothing growing up. That makes sense. That could be plot adjacent. Maybe we should have seen that. Maybe we should have made that the story. Yeah? His grandpa told him what really happened on the night of the Slayers dying, being murdered. When his grandpa was a Varanmore student, his grandpa's girlfriend claimed to be a witch, so they took a maid from the castle into the woods to have the witch experiment on. The maid died, they got drunk on the power, it was a high for them, so his grandpa and his friends 90 years ago were the Slayers. And she's like, but I thought all the Slayers died, so wouldn't your grandpa have died? And he says, well, his grandpa also led the group that killed the Slayers. Judas! I kind of don't care though. It's too late to care. We should have made this the plot and had a better writer do it. His grandpa's girlfriend, according to the grandpa, cursed them all before she died at the hands of other students and told him that the Slayers would hunt all their killers down from beyond the grave. Except this gets retconned because we learned that the grandma didn't die. How did she get away after cursing them all? I have no fucking clue. His grandpa believed that the disappearances on the night of Black Ball were because of the curse. And she asked, okay, so how did your grandpa die? And he's like, I can't tell you, but I have no regrets. I don't think this ever got answered. I don't think he ever says how his grandpa died. Okay, weirdo. This could have been a good story, maybe, if it had been written by a skilled writer and if Corvina Clem was not the main character. I'd rather have seen the grandpa raising Vaude until the curse came for him. That would have been a more fun story. He says years ago when the Black Ball was approaching, Zoe, Ajax's former girlfriend, told him about a shack in the woods, the same one that Corvina and her classmates saw, but it was locked from the outside. And then Zoe disappeared. She's not sure why, or he's not sure why she disappeared. He isn't sure why Troy or Alyssa walked off that roof. She says it's macabre that they've made out in the same place in the woods that people were tortured in, and he's like, and I do it again! And does. And then she asks, what did Ajax mean about the woman and the purple eyes? And he said, she told me one day I'd see purple eyes and I should follow it. And this was so convoluted. The boys' home he grew up in was called the Morning Star Home, which is the same name of the institute her mother is in. And he was looking for a kid that had grown up in the Morning Star orphanage with him, like trying to track him down, and instead found the institute and saw a picture of her mom. So the institute had a picture up of a patient, okay, and learned about her mom and saw her mom had purple eyes, and he went to see her mom, and her mom asked this random stranger of a man to look after Corvina. And he's like, where were you 3 years ago? And she's like, oh, I was at the institute getting tested for schizophrenia and you saw me. And instead of being creeped out, she thinks, he sees me. No one else sees me. He sees my demons and accepts them. He sees into my moon of a soul. Okay, girl, please just get a grip. This man is grooming you. He set you up to be there. It's so obvious that he set this up. My good bitch, you need to run. Instead it says he fucked her and sent her away full of his seed just how he liked it. Ew, 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 ew. He teaches her how to give him a blowjob. And then they have sex, which is described as them mating. Will it always be like this? She asks. It'll get better. Oh, will it? Will it get better? Good, then maybe I won't be suffering. And she says if it got any better, she would die. Me first. While asleep, she has another supernatural experience, hearing voices again. She sees a version of herself drowning, a bunch of bodies in the lake, and Vaude dragging her down underwater. When she wakes up, she tells Vaude that she thinks there's bodies in the lake, and Vaude says, okay, I'll ask the board to drag the lake. She starts to suspect he's evil, and I'm like, yeah, kill him, drown him in the lake. She doesn't though. Instead, he admits to her, by the way, I brought you here. I found you. I sent you an invitation to attend Varanmore, which I had already assumed because I'm at least working with half a brain cell up here. Unlike Corvina Clem, her reaction, not being freaked out like I would be, she just ignores it, just shoots right past it, doesn't care, doesn't even register it, just pretends that puppeteering never happened, and instead starts to get into saying, what if I become schizophrenic like my mother? And he's like, I'm the only madness you'll have. Okay, this book is a lot of things, and it's also not a lot of things. This book is not sensical, enjoyable, well written, worth the paper it was printed on. What is it? Terrible for conversations around an already stigmatized disorder. It is certainly that. So the schools of officially gonna drag the lake, and the black ball is still coming, by the way, so it's safe to assume at this point while I'm reading that the black ball is going to be the climax of the story, this very plotless story, which is only plotless because we prioritize the climaxes of the main character and her teacher. But the lake being dragged does result in bones being found, and they somehow figure out that the bodies were weighed down, but they don't elaborate on that. Again, the sex scenes were so elaborate. Why did we stop the elaboration there, I wonder? It takes 3 days for all the bones to be found, and more investigators show up, and they find 14 skulls in the lake. What questions do you have at this point, right? Like, what questions do the townspeople have? This is certainly something I would certainly wonder about. I have the question like, you're gonna tell me that the 14 people, let's say that the 14 skulls that they found were the lynched student murderers. Okay? Because I honestly don't know whose fucking bodies are in the lake. I still can't tell you. I don't fucking know. You're gonna tell me that not a single one of these dead people had family that asked for the return of their bodies? Not one of them asked that the lake be searched when the bodies were not found? No one else, including Vaude, who's vaguely mentioned investigating evil on these grounds, thought to drag the lake before Corvina fucking Clem mentioned it? We don't know. We don't fucking know. These natural, rational questions aren't asked, let alone answered. But if you're asking, hey, are they still fucking, and are we getting several paragraphs telling us about it? You betcha they fucked. They fucked a lot with an insatiable need that seemed to be growing wilder. They also talked. Sometimes they didn't talk at all. Wow, that's great. Super helpful for me as a reader. Corvina feels a sense of doom impending as we get closer to the black ball. And finally, me and Corvina are on the same page, because impending doom is how I feel about each next chapter of the book. Vaude says that 10 people of the dead were identified and then gives no further information. Before moving on to saying something completely irrelevant, which is, I'm finishing my thesis today. Oh yeah, remember his thesis on music? You likely don't, because it's completely irrelevant, just like when we learned Corvina doesn't like wearing underwear, and the thesis is never gonna come up again. It's great. She still lies to her friends, especially Jade, about the fact that she is fucking her teacher, which in this case is terrible, because in case he kills her, there's no trail of evidence proving that they were together and he's a suspect. So please don't fuck your teacher, and if you decide to make a terrible decision and fuck your teacher who's very creepy, please at least tell one friend. So if your teacher fucks you and then kills you, at least there's some chance that, you know, they'll get the guy. The students ask Corvina, hey, do a tarot reading, and her friends are asking questions and, you know, having a silly goofy time. And then of course Vaude shows up, because taking time for side characters for longer than a second isn't something that Runix can do. He shows up and asks if the girl he loves him back, and she draws the 2 of cups, which is the yes. This is them admitting they love each other. And let me be the first to say, I do not care. During sex, one of the voices comes back and says, you didn't find me. Corvina figures out that the black ball always happens on a full moon. Why is this important? It's not. Mo tells her to go to the shack. She runs into Ajax, they go together, and there's a body inside the shack that's burnt, and they can't tell if she died 6 months ago or 5 years ago. Ajax says it's suspicious that Vaude hasn't looked for the shack despite knowing the lands because he owns them, and Ajax also thinks Vaude kills his own grandpa. We don't get an answer as to why Vaude never looked for the shack despite this being his land that he knows, and we also, I don't believe, ever got an answer as to why Vaude killed his grandpa. She refuses to believe that Vaude is evil, and Ajax is like, wow, he's so lucky to have someone who believes in him. It's not luck, actually, it's manipulation. At the black ball, people are dancing, and then of course it turns into people fucking on the dance floor. There was a little bit of this that I saw at homecoming when I was 16, but it wasn't like this. Vaude is wearing a mask with a beak. Hot. And he says that at the last black ball, him and Ajax had a 3-way on the dance floor with Zoe. Things I did not need to know. Oh, Zoe? Yeah, the girl who disappeared. Suspicious. And this is somehow dirty talk, him telling her this. And it, quote, makes her pussy weep. I also want to cry. Me and her pussy have that in common. These students can't make phone calls, but this school lets them turn a centuries-old ball into an orgy that typically leads to a disappearance. Of course, makes sense. Then there are 2 disappearances. Roy, the mean girl who was sexually assaulted and it made her angry, who showed up all of twice, and Jade, Corvina's roommate. They notice that there's a fire in the woods. They go to the fire, and it's the piano, Vaude's piano that lives in the woods. It's on fire. Then elsewhere we hear a scream in the woods. Everybody splits up. Corvina finds Roy in the lake. Ajax shows up. He pulls Roy out. Roy is dead. So I just just want to point out that I think it really was not appropriate that the only black character in this book was a mean girl whose ample bosom was described, and that she was mean because she had been sexually assaulted in a foster home. I just think that that was kind of a weird choice to make. But okay, Runix. Ajax pulls Roy out of the lake, tries to do CPR, but she is dead. And by the way, we never find out who killed Roy or why. Corvina and Ajax go back to the school. Ajax gets a phone call that says that the body that they found days ago was the body of Jade Prescott. And that doesn't make sense because Jade was at the ball. Someone knocks out Corvina. When she wakes up, she's with her roommate, Jade, who is not the real Jade. She's the fake Jade, and the real Jade is dead, and fake Jade killed her. Fake Jade's grandma was the witch in the group of slayers. Her grandma never died and was pregnant and got away. And her grandpa was Vaud's grandpa, making fake Jade Vaud's cousin. She killed the real Jade only recently. She had kept her in that shack. She assumed her identity. She'd been keeping her in that shack, but then once the students saw the shack, she knew that she had to kill the real Jade. And she killed Troy because he was suspicious of her because she also killed her roommate Alyssa using this poison. She like some kind of poison. She like tricked them into walking off of the roof. Troy was catching on to this and she killed him, and she had killed Alyssa because Alyssa was interested in Vaud. And fake Jade wants to fuck her own cousin Vaud. That's the answer. This is all about wanting to fuck Vaud. Vaud shows up as like, great job, my beautiful cousin. And the voices in Corvina's head are arguing about whether or not to trust him. Vaud throws fake Jade cousin off the tower. Corvina hears a ton of voices after she dies. Vaud commands her, look me in my eyes. However, Jade says before she died, I didn't try to kill Roy. Who did? Again, I thought that we were gonna get that answer, and then we did not. Corvina suffers mentally from hearing all these voices in her head all at once. Her doctor, who is in charge of her mom's care, decides she needs to be kept in inpatient care for a while. But don't worry, he allows for creepy professor to have full access to her the entire time. They keep her in inpatient for 6 months and then just let her go. The doctor says Mo is a voice that Corvina made up to deal with a difficult childhood. Who is actually Mo? No fucking clue. Vaud assumes responsibility for Corvina in a way that feels disgustingly parental and like specifically paternal. In the epilogue, 5 years later, another black ball has passed and no one went missing this time. They have a husky now, a dog. They're married and she wears a ring that says nevermore on it. Of course she does. He says he has a gift for her while they're fooling around, and he says, I got my vasectomy reversed, because he had previously mentioned that he had a vasectomy. Corvina's dropped getting a degree and makes candles while he continues to be a teacher, but don't worry, she also found her old journals from when she was at the school and decides to write everything down and thinks about how there were so many unanswered questions. Who was the boy in the library? What happened to Roy? That's how Runix decided to deal with her own plot holes, mentioning them being plot holes. So who was the boy in the library? Don't know. What happened to Roy? Don't know. We don't know what actually happened to Roy, but we do know about the orgy on the dance floor. Apparently, Corvina thought about all these unanswered questions and had so many thoughts to think that she wrote a 100,000 word manuscript and turned it into a book. And do you want to guess what she named this book? GOTHIKANA. The name of this book is the name of the book that the main character writes about the events that we just experienced in this book. That's right, it's a fucking infinity of fuckery with no actual answer in sight. There is no reason why this book is called GOTHIKANA. She just wanted to use the word gothic and thought GOTHIKANA sounded pretty. That's it. That's the answer. What was the fucking point of any of this? But especially Roy or the boy in the library or the voices. There was no point because this book doesn't have a fucking point. It just did a bunch of fucking stuff for the sake of doing it so that it could call itself a gothic dark romance. The unanswered questions being acknowledged by the author in this way is such a fucking slap in the face. What a lazy ass thing to do. And in the end, Corvina tells Vaud, I want to move back to Varenmore to raise the kids there. What a great place to raise kids. Perfect. Where you found all those fucking bones. Awesome. This was so bad. Listen, I like characters with like weird girls who like weird shit and are outcasts. I read this one last year, which is a weird book where this girl ends up making friends with the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and she's such an outcast and the only friend friends she really has are spiders. This is genuinely terrible. This is so ridiculous, so bad, so excruciating to read. I mean, that sex scene where he's hammering into her and saying, "I am your madness." Are you serious? I'm supposed to take this seriously? I'm like equal parts laughing at it and disgusted by it. In no way, shape, or form. And I like, wow, quality literature. Like, there's nothing in this book for me to say like, oh, I kind of get it. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. And I can say I kind of get it about Fourth Wing. I can say I kind of get it about Lightlark. I don't get it with this. I do not get it at all. There's nothing to like in here that I can tell. I don't understand. And if you do, that's fine. I'm just saying, from my POV, from where I am sitting, I am not able to see it. So, woof. That is really like the sum and whole of my review. Woof. Bad. I just think that this sort of romanticized grooming, and I don't appreciate that. As somebody who went through that, not with a teacher, I just find that super uncomfortable to read. And I understand dark romance has a point. I don't know. I'm sure there's like gray area here. It's hard to say, like, it's hard to say if there's a way that wouldn't be upsetting to me to read it, just because like that's so subjective. So again, like, you know, you are allowed to experience things so differently than I did, but from my POV, no review is really objective. We take ourselves into every book that we read, and every sentence that we read, we bring ourselves along. We can't really divorce ourselves from it. So subjectively, obviously, I think that that's gross. I think that it was gross. If you feel different, that's fine. I just think that this is a really fucking terrible book. I'm so glad it's over. Oh my god. I'm just really glad this wasn't a series. Like, wow. I mean, how can you make a series when there's absolutely no plot? Not even a lick of it. And you're not even willing to answer basic questions that you set up, things that you did in one book. You're certainly not going to continue on to 2 or 3. So that makes sense, and I'm thankful for it, because any more would be a crime. Okay, thanks for watching. Leave your comments and questions down below if you have any. And if you made it to the end of the video, leave a, what should we leave? A crow, a bird. You can leave a bird in the comments. Specifically, is there a black bird emoji? If not, leave whatever fucking bird you want. Okay, thanks for watching. Oh, I need a nap. Okay, and maybe a drink and weed and also cookies. Okay, thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.
Hello, before I go, I have to say thank you for being a friend to my Therapy Bills patrons, and those are Alexander, Brittany Bobitney, Cami, Choco's Trash for Japanese Mysteries and Thrillers, which you have Choco to thank for an upcoming review on a on a book that I did not know where that was going. We'll talk about it later. Chris the Horror Therapist, Dalton, DJ Rocktopus, Ellie, Emerald Dodge, Emperor's New Blues, Aaron with 2 E's, Eric, Ethel Go Lightly, GalaxyBot, Jack, Jess, John E, Julie D, Kaleno K, Casey McKenzie, Kate W, Caitlin M, Lady Kittybug, Lemon Jelly, Lex, Lily B, Max B, Mommy Zami, Mixer Boneless, Alice, Panoramic Demon, oof, Peggy Lou, Rachel C, Rain, Reese, SJ, Samar, Scarlet, Shiny, SMK, Spoopy, Steph B, 2 Orbit, White Raven, Zorvictia, and Chai Guy. Thank you all so much for being here and for being a friend. And last but not least, I also have to say thank you for being a friend to my Potato Starch Marxist patrons, and those are Alejandra, Amanda D, Amanda, Andy, Angelica, Anita, Artie the Ninth, Ava, Ballads and Bookends, Beck, Blake Lemon Pants, Blythe, Bookish Bats, Bookish Brainrot, Bree, Caitlin, Cardinal Ginger, Carlin, Casper, Kate W, Catherine, Kathy, Chris, CJ, Clementine, Cole, Colleen, Corwin, Cosmic, Darius, Danielle, Darren, Desiree, Diet Goth, Dilf Enthusiast, Dorian, Dorothea, Ebby, Emily A, Emily L, Emma, Emma O.A, Aaron, Ezra, Fiona, Gadarn, Hannah C, Harpy Kuro, Haley G, Ilianaka, India Inks, JM Tennant, Jay is on Olympus, Jelly V, Jen Michelle, Genderqueer, Jenny G, Jessa Sue, Jill, Jillian, Jojo Bookish, Kat, Catherine, Katie, Kaylee, Kayala, Kendra, Kiara, KMTB, Laughing Cat Dog, Laura, Lauren, Lazarus Ray, Library of Scars, Lindsay M, Lisa B, Lisa L, LP, Lou Siri, Lustful Octopus, Martin, Madison, Man-Eating Plant, Marcella, Marquita, Melara, Mentally Unwell, May, Molly, James, Natalie, Never, Nicole G, Nicole R, Nyan Binary, Paige P, Penny Chilling, Foxglove, Rachel B, Reba, Rebecca, Rebecca R, Rivi, Ronnie, Rosie, Rowan, Secoria, Sadie, Saintbringer, Sakialume, Samantha, Sammy C, Sarah H, Sarah the Bear, Sarah Z, Shamed, Shannon, Sheen Onion, Sean, Super Evil Sam, T Delegati, Tay, Talia, 3 Old Dogs, Tiana, Trashcan Teddy, Triple M, Tito Phoenix, and Writer A. Thank you all so much for being a friend.